Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring a book that's all about presence, mindfulness, and the power of living in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Eckhart, The Power of Now.
A classic.
Now we don't have the whole book in front of us,
Right.
but we do have Blinkett's super helpful summary.
Yes.
So we're going to extract the most fascinating bits and see how this philosophy might actually impact your life.
Yeah, and it's not just about, feeling zen and peaceful, although that's a nice perk.
Right.
Tolle's ideas can actually change how you approach everything.
Yeah.
Your work, your relationships, even how you handle those inevitable tough moments.
Right. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was this concept of the pain body.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit of a mind bender.
Okay.
But Tolle suggests there's actually part of us that needs pain to survive.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Think about it. Haven't you ever noticed how some people seem to get stuck in negative cycles?
Totally.
Almost like they thrive on drama or conflict.
Okay, so let's unpack this pain body idea.
Oh.
What exactly is it and how does it work?
Imagine it like this. It's an energy field within you made up of all your past pain and trauma. And here's the kicker. It actually looks for new pain to feed on.
Right.
It becomes part of your identity, so you might unconsciously sabotage your own happiness because on some level you're afraid of what you'd be without the pain.
Whoa, that's deep.
Yeah.
So it's like this vicious cycle. Past pain creates the pain body, which then drives you to create more pain, which just strengthens the pain body.
Exactly.
And on it goes.
And it's often so subtle you don't even realize it's happening.
Right.
Remember that feeling of anger taking over during an argument, clouding your rational thought?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the pain body hijacking your system.
Okay, that's making me rethink some arguments I've had.
Huh.
This is where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
Tolle's big idea is that the key to breaking free from this pain body is to become present,
Right.
to fully inhabit the now.
Yeah.
But our minds are so good at pulling us back into the past or catapulting us into the future. How do we actually do that?
That's where Tolle's teachings about the ego come in.
Okay.
And this isn't about having a big ego in the traditional sense.
Right.
It's much more subtle and sneaky than that.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So what exactly is this ego Tolle keeps talking about?
Think of it as that part of your mind that's constantly trying to define itself to create a sense of identity.
Okay.
It does this by clinging to thoughts, beliefs, and stories about who you are.
Okay.
It's like that inner voice always chattering away in your head.
Oh, I know that voice very well.
Right.
Sometimes it's helpful,
Uh-huh.
but other times it feels like it's holding me back.
Exactly. And that's the catch. This inner narrator can be incredibly destructive because the ego needs problems and conflict to maintain its sense of self.
Okay.
It wants to feel separate, superior, or wronged. So even when you think you're acting rationally, the ego might be pulling the strings behind the scenes, keeping you stuck in those negative cycles.
Wow. So even if I manage to quiet my pain body, this ego thing is another hurdle I have to deal with.
Right.
This is sounding like a lot of work.
It is a process.
Yeah.
But Tolle provides some really practical steps you can take.
Okay.
It starts with simply becoming aware of the ego, recognizing its voice and its patterns.
So it's like seeing the magician's tricks once you know what to look for.
Exactly. And once you start to see how the ego operates, you can begin to detach from it, to create some space between your true self and all that mental chatter.
Okay. I'm with you so far.
Okay.
But if the ego lives in the mind, how do I detach from it?
Right.
Does this mean I have to empty my mind completely?
Yeah.
Because honestly, that sounds really hard.
It's a common misconception. You don't have to empty your mind. It's more about observing your thoughts without judgment. Tolle talks about creating a gap between your thoughts, a space where you can simply witness what your mind is doing without getting swept away by it.
So instead of getting lost in thought, I become the observer of my thoughts.
Exactly.
That actually feels a lot more doable.
And it's powerful because when you can observe your thoughts without judgment, you start to realize that they're just thoughts, not necessarily truths. And that gives you the power to choose how you respond to them.
Okay, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something else Tully talks about.
Okay.
Shifting our focus from the mind to the body. He talks about the body knowing what's best for us.
Yes.
How does that fit into all of this?
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Tolle argues that by tuning into your physical sensations, you ground yourself in the present moment. Your body is always in the now, while your mind can be off on tangents.
Right.
It's like hitting the reset button and coming back to reality.
So paying attention to my breath, my posture, my physical feelings, That can help me become more present.
Precisely, and this isn't just some new age idea.
Right.
Tolle connects this to ancient wisdom.
Hmm.
Think about Jesus' emphasis on the body as a temple, or Buddha's realization that enlightenment came after he reconnected with his body, not through denying it.
Wow, I'm seeing all these historical and spiritual connections now.
Uh-huh.
So it's about listening to my body, not ignoring it or trying to transcend it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that your body has its own wisdom, and it can be a powerful anchor to the present moment.
This is making me rethink so many things.
Hmm.
It's like my whole approach to life has been focused on my mind, and I've been neglecting this incredible source of wisdom that's been with me all along. Tolle even gives a practical tip for putting this into practice,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
He says to notice when you have an impulse to do something like going for a run,
Yeah.
instead of immediately acting, just observe what your mind does.
Yeah.
Does it start judging, making excuses, or trying to talk you out of it?
That's right. It's a simple but powerful exercise to start creating that separation between the you that observes and the you that gets caught up in your mind's constant chatter.
You know, I'm realizing how often my mind creates unnecessary drama.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my own personal reality TV show, and most of the time I don't even want to be watching.
That's a great way to put it. And that awareness is the first step to reclaiming your power and experiencing life more fully.
This is all resonating with me so much.
Yes.
Starting to see how much I get lost in thought and how that takes me away from experiencing life fully.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the times when we actually need to plan for the future or reflect on the past?
Yeah.
Are we just supposed to ignore those aspects of life completely?
That's a really important question, and it gets to the core of what Tolle is teaching. He's not saying you should live in a state of blissful ignorance or deny the reality of time.
Oh.
He's simply encouraging you to be conscious of how you relate to time.
So it's about finding a balance,
Yes,
using time as a tool without letting it control me.
I like that. Exactly. And Tolle points out that when you're truly present, you can actually be more effective in dealing with both the past and the future.
How so? Wouldn't being present mean I'm only focused on what's happening right now?
Think about it this way. When you're not burdened by regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, you can approach situations with more clarity and wisdom. You're not carrying all that baggage with you.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like when I'm truly present, I have access to all my resources,
Yes.
my mental clarity, my emotional intelligence, even my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows me to make better choices in all areas of my life.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, and it goes beyond just personal growth. It impacts how you interact with the world around you.
Right.
Because when you're present, you're naturally more compassionate, understanding, and responsive to the needs of others.
I love how Tolle's teachings bridge the gap between personal transformation and social change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about finding inner peace.
Right.
It's about creating a more peaceful world.
yeah.
And this is where his concept of conscious manifestation comes in, right?
Yes, that's a big one. It's about aligning your intentions with the power of the present moment.
Okay.
Tolle suggests that when you're truly present, you tap into a source of creative energy that allows you to bring your desires into reality.
Okay, conscious manifestation. I've heard that term thrown around a lot,
Right.
but honestly, I'm not sure I completely understand it.
Yeah.
Can you break it down for me? What does Tolle actually mean?
It's not about wishful thinking or trying to force things to happen. It's about surrendering to the flow of life while taking inspired action towards your goals.
So it's like a dance between being and doing,
Yes.
accepting what is while also taking steps to create what I want.
You got it. And it requires a deep level of trust in the universe, a willingness to let go of that need to control everything, which, let's be honest, can be pretty tough.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, it sounds a bit paradoxical.
Yeah.
How can I be both surrendered and proactive at the same time?
That's the beauty of this approach. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're in alignment with the flow of life, but you're also actively participating in shaping your reality. And Tolle believes that's where your true power lies.
Wow, that's resonating with me on such a deep level. It's like a whole new way of understanding how I can create change, not just in my own life, but in the world around me too.
Exactly. And it's a journey, not a destination. We're all learning and growing, and there will be times when we fall back into old patterns of thinking and behaving.
Right.
But the key is to keep practicing, to keep returning to the present moment, and to trust that the universe has your back.
I love that. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed by all the challenges in the world. But Tolle reminds us that we have more power than we realize to create positive change. So we've covered a lot of ground here: the pain body, the ego, the power of the present moment, and even conscious manifestation. I feel like my brain just did a yoga pose, a very confusing yoga pose.
That's a perfect way to describe it. We've explored some deep concepts here, and you've been asking amazing questions.
Thanks. I'm definitely starting to see how all these ideas connect and build upon each other. But for now, we'll pause here and give everyone listening a chance to digest everything we've talked about.
Yes, take some time to reflect on what resonated most with you, and maybe even start experimenting with some of these practices in your own life. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the power of now. Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of now. I'm so glad you're still with us. We've laid some solid groundwork unpacking those big ideas like the pain body, the ego, and why being present is so important now. Are you ready to explore some even more intriguing aspects of Tolle's teachings?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that really blew my mind was how Tolle challenges the way we think about time. We're so used to thinking in terms of past, present, futures, like our default setting.
Right.
But Tolle says this linear view of time is actually an illusion. That's a big claim.
It is, and it's a game changer when you really grasp it. He argues that the only true reality is this present moment.
Right.
The past is gone, the future isn't here yet. So all we ever really have is now.
Right.
But our minds, they love to pull us out of the present.
Uh-huh.
And that's often where our suffering comes from.
It's like we're living in a time warp of our own creation. We're either replaying past regrets like a broken record, or fast-forwarding into the future with all our worries and anxieties.
Yes.
And in the process, we miss the beauty and richness of what's happening right here, right now.
It's so true. And Tolle doesn't just leave us hanging with this mind-blowing concept. He actually provides practical tools for breaking free from this mental time travel. We've already touched on some, like observing your thoughts without judgment and tuning into your body. But he also dives into this fascinating concept he calls psychological time.
Ooh, psychological time. That sounds intriguing. What exactly is that?
Think of it as the time that's created by your mind as opposed to clock time,
Right.
which is just a way of measuring the passage of events. Psychological time is fueled by your thoughts, emotions, and those stories you tell yourself about the past and future. It's the root of your anxieties, regrets, and fantasies.
So it's like my internal clock is running on overdrive, even when the external clock is ticking along normally.
Yeah.
No wonder I feel so rushed and pressured all the time.
It's a common experience, especially in our fast-paced, always-on world. But Tolle says you have the power to step off that treadmill of psychological time.
Okay.
And the key is simply becoming aware of when you're trapped in it.
So it's about noticing those mental patterns, those thoughts that pull me out of the present moment.
You got it. And when you become aware of them, you can choose a different way of being. Instead of getting lost in the mental drama, you can just observe it, acknowledge it, and let it go.
So it's like hitting the pause button on my inner reality show.
Uh-huh.
The one that's usually filled with unnecessary drama and over-the-top special effects.
Love that analogy. And in that pause, in that space between thoughts, you reconnect with the power of now.
It sounds simple, but I imagine it takes practice, like a lot of practice. My mind is pretty good at weaving those elaborate time travel tales.
It does take practice. It's a lifelong journey of cultivating presence.
Right.
But the more you practice, the easier it becomes to access that peace and clarity Tolle talks about. And that's where the real magic happens.
Okay, so I'm learning to detach from psychological time and become more present. But what about when I actually need to plan for the future or reflect on the past?
Right.
Is Tolle saying I should just ignore those parts of life altogether?
That's a great question. And it's something people often misunderstand about Tolle's teachings. He's not advocating for living in a state of blissful ignorance or pretending that time doesn't exist.
Okay.
He's simply saying you need to be mindful of how you relate to it.
So it's about finding that balance again.
Yeah.
Using time consciously as a tool rather than letting it rule my life.
Exactly. And Tolle even suggests that when you're truly present, you're actually more effective in dealing with both the past and the future.
I'm not sure I follow that. How can being present help me deal with things that have already happened or haven't happened yet?
Here's the thing. When you're not weighed down by regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, you can approach situations with a clear mind and a wise heart.
Okay.
You're not letting all that baggage cloud your judgment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. It's like when I'm fully present, I have access to my best self.
Yes.
My mental clarity, my emotional intelligence, my intuition, and those qualities help me make better choices no matter what I'm dealing with.
It's such a powerful shift, and it's not just about personal growth. It also has a ripple effect on the world around you, because when you're truly present, you're more likely to be compassionate, understanding, and responsive to the needs of others.
That's one of the things I appreciate most about Tolle's work.
Mm-hmm.
It bridges the gap between personal transformation and social change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about finding inner peace for yourself. It's about creating a more peaceful world for everyone. And this is where his idea of conscious manifestation comes in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where it gets really exciting. We touched on it earlier, but let's dive a little deeper. Conscious manifestation is about aligning your intentions with the power of the present moment. Tolle suggests that when you're truly present, you tap into this incredible source of creative energy that allows you to bring your desires into reality.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this, but I need a bit more clarification. We've all heard people say, just put it out there and the universe will provide. But is that really all there is to conscious manifestation?
It's so much more than just wishful thinking. It's not about passively hoping things will work out. It's about surrendering to the flow of life while at the same time taking inspired action toward your goals.
So it's like a dynamic interplay between being and doing, accepting what is, while also taking steps to create what I want to see in the world.
You nailed it. And it requires a deep level of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in the universe. It's about letting go of that need to control everything, which, let's be honest, can be really hard for many of us.
Definitely. I know I can get pretty attached to my plans and my ideas of how things should be.
Yeah.
So you're saying that conscious manifestation is about finding that sweet spot where I'm aligned with the flow of life, but I'm also actively co-creating my reality.
Exactly. And this is where Tolle believes your true power lies. It's about recognizing that you're not just a passive observer in your life, you're a powerful creator.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. This is really shifting the way I think about my role in creating change both in my own life and on a larger scale. But I have to admit, it's a bit mind-blowing to think that I have that much influence over my reality. Is it really that simple?
It's simple, but it's not always easy. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. You're learning and growing, and there will be times when you fall back into old patterns of thinking and behaving. That's okay. The key is to keep practicing, to keep returning to the present moment, and to trust that the universe is always supporting you.
That's such a reassuring thought.
Yeah.
It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go according to plan, but Tolle reminds us that we have more power than we realize to create positive change, and that's really inspiring.
It is, and it all starts with cultivating that deep sense of presence, that connection to the power of now.
Okay, so we've gone even deeper now, exploring psychological, time-conscious manifestation and how all of this ties back to living in the present moment. I'm feeling a bit like my brain needs a nap after all that.
I hear you. We've covered some deep concepts here, and it's a lot to take in.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah.
These ideas are truly transformative. But before we dive into the next layer of Tolle's teachings, let's give everyone listening a chance to catch their breath and integrate everything we've explored so far.
Yes, let these ideas simmer for a bit. Notice what resonates with you, what sparks your curiosity. Maybe even experiment with some of these practices in your own life. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the power of now.
Welcome back to our deep dive. As we wrap up our exploration of the power of now, there's one more concept I really want to dig into, and that's surrender.
Yeah.
Now, I know that word can be a bit tricky.
Yeah.
It can sound like giving up or becoming passive, but I have a hunch Tolle means something much deeper.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not about waving a white flag and letting life run you over. For Tolle, surrender is about letting go of that ego-driven need to control everything, to resist what is.
Oh.
It's about aligning yourself with the natural flow of life, trusting that there's a greater intelligence at work.
So it's more about acceptance than passivity.
Exactly.
Recognizing that I'm not always in the driver's seat.
Exactly. It's about releasing that inner struggle, all that mental and emotional tension that comes from trying to force things to go your way. And here's the paradox. Tolle suggests that surrender is actually a source of incredible power.
Now, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
How can surrendering be powerful? It seems like the opposite of power, like I'm just giving up.
Think about it this way. When you surrender, you free up all that energy you were using to resist reality. It's like you stop swimming against the current and finally allow yourself to be carried by it. And in that space of allowing you open yourself up to new possibilities,
Right.
to solutions and opportunities you couldn't even see when you were blinded by your own resistance.
So it's like I'm tapping into a greater intelligence, a wisdom that's beyond my limited perspective.
It totally uses this great metaphor of a sailboat.
Okay.
When you're trying to control everything, it's like you're rowing against the wind, exhausting yourself and getting nowhere fast.
Yeah.
But when you surrender, it's like you hoist the sails and allow the wind to carry you toward your destination.
That's a beautiful image. And, it makes me think about all those times in my life when I've struggled and strived only to realize that the best outcomes came when I finally let go and trusted the process.
That's the beautiful paradox of surrender. It's not about giving up. It's about opening up to a power and wisdom that's bigger than yourself. And in that opening, you find a new level of freedom and effectiveness.
This is really resonating with me. Okay, so I'm starting to grasp the idea, but how do I actually practice surrender? Especially when I'm facing a really tough situation or when my mind is screaming at me to take control.
It's a practice just like anything else. And like any new skill, it takes time and patience.
Right.
It starts with awareness. Notice those moments when you feel resistance building up. Maybe you're clenching your jaw, holding your breath, tensing your shoulders.
Right.
Those are signs that your ego is trying to grab the wheel and wrestle control from you.
So it's about paying attention to those physical cues, those bodily sensations that tell me I'm out of alignment.
Exactly.
My body is like my inner alarm system.
Exactly. It's so wise. And once you become aware of that resistance, you can start practicing letting go. Take a deep breath, relax your body, and allow yourself to feel whatever emotions are present. Don't try to push them away or judge yourself for having them.
Okay.
Just acknowledge them and then gently shift your attention back to the present moment.
You make it sound so easy, but I know from experience that letting go of that need to control can be tough, especially when I'm feeling scared or insecure. It's like my default mode is to grip the steering wheel with all my might.
It is challenging, but it gets easier with practice. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And the rewards are so worth it because when you truly surrender, you tap into a deep well of peace and power that's always available to you.
Okay. I'm willing to give it a try. This is making me think about all the areas of my life where I might be holding on too tightly in my relationships, my work, even just my own thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah.
What would it look like to practice surrender in those areas? What would it feel like?
That's a beautiful question to reflect on. It might look like letting go of the need to be right in an argument, trusting that your partner truly cares about you and has your best interests at heart. Or maybe it looks like releasing that fear of failure,
Right.
giving yourself permission to take risks and chase your dreams. It could even be as simple as accepting your thoughts and feelings without judgment, knowing that they're temporary visitors, not permanent residents in your mind.
Wow, you've given me so much to think about. It's like you've opened up a whole new way of approaching life, one that's based on trust and acceptance rather than fear and control.
That's the essence of the power of the power. Now it's about awakening to the reality that you're not separate from the flow of life, that you're part of something much bigger than yourself. And when you align yourself with that greater power, you tap into a source of wisdom, creativity, and love that can transform your life and the world around you.
What an incredible journey this has been. We've explored so much of Tolle's wisdom, the pain body, the ego, the power of presence, and now surrender. I feel like I've gained a whole new set of tools for navigating life's ups and downs.
And there's always more to discover. But for now, we'll leave you with this invitation as you go about your day. Notice those moments when you feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed. And in those moments, remember the power of, now take a deep breath, reconnect with your body, and choose to surrender to the flow of life.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to experience the transformative power of living in the now. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Like and subscribe for more deep dives.